Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. I'm really looking forward to Saturday when we'll be hosting Eliud Kipchoge at Mindspeak. Of course, he ran his fastest marathon ever at the Temple of Speed in Monza, where he ran 2 hours and 24 seconds, the fastest recorded marathon. These are a couple of photographs from David Cleryhugh, which I liked and which I found. So this Saturday, Intercontinental, we serve breakfast from 9:30. Mindspeak is a free-to-attend forum, and we start promptly at 10. I came across this, Life Lessons Learned from Eliud Kipchoge's speech at the Oxford Union. And let me read you some of them. The world is actually full of challenges and we need to challenge ourselves. I took a challenge to run that fast. It consumes a lot of energy, especially mentally. But I took myself and accepted to be challenged, and I challenged the time. I had a friend in India who told me that. The guy is 50 years now, and he told me he will die before we see a human being run 2 hours flat. I met him 1 month ago in New York and I joked, "You will never die again because you have seen me run 2 hours." Self-discipline starts with you. It's no other person. It starts with you. Start to examine yourself. Self-discipline is doing what's right instead of doing what you feel like doing. That's the meaning of self-discipline. After accommodating self-discipline in your mind, self-discipline can help you to actually get 3 things. It can save your feelings, get you back on the course when you try to think otherwise. Self-discipline can help easily come back and think positively. It helps you to do the right thing in the moment for long-term benefits. You should stick to your priorities. Don't make excuses. When you have decided to do something, do it. No excuses. Then you are self-disciplined. Make discipline your lifestyle. Discipline is not a one-time event. Self-discipline is like building your muscle. It's like going to the gym. You cannot go to the gym today and build your muscle. You should get a program and go slowly by slowly. That's the way to build your muscle. That's the way you can have discipline. Only the disciplined ones are free in life. If you aren't disciplined, you are a slave to your moods. You are a slave to your passions. That's a fact. There is a sign in one of the nicest schools in Canada. It says the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. That was the best time to plant a tree. The second best time is today. Plant the tree of self-discipline. I believe in a philosophy that says to win is actually not important. To be successful is not even important. How to plan and prepare is critical and crucial. When you plan very well, then success can come on your way. Then winning can come on your way. In any profession, you should think positively. That's the driver of your mind. If your mind is really thinking positive, then you are on the right track. Pleasure in what you're doing puts perfection in your work. That was a quote by Aristotle. I'm here because of teamwork. I'm here because sport is a mutual interest. I'm here to talk about my success because I am really about teamwork. The law of consistency says you should get motivated. Motivation makes you move. Motivation makes you go forward. Personally, I believe in what I'm doing. To run a big marathon and win, it takes 5 months. When I am on the starting line, my mind starts to think of what I have been doing for the last 5 months. I believe in my training. I treat myself as the best one on that line because my mind is telling me that I am the best. And I believe in what I am doing in the last 5 months. I can run free. I can run free. And that's what actually has helped me to be successful. Macro thoughts, let's go back to the markets now. Brent oil has crossed $79 a barrel. Take you back to many articles, but the latest was on the 14th of May. President Trump, whose political raison d'etre is to expunge and delete the name of Barack Hussein Obama from the record. I said, and I also said, he's flipped Obama's oil warfare strategy on its head. In fact, you will recall oil prices touched $32 a barrel in President Obama's second term, in part to bring a recalcitrant Russia to heel and neuter Saudi resistance to his JCPOA deal. And he's flipped that strategy on its head. I said he's probably seeking to assist the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia up the greasy pole. And the Kremlin, I'm sure, is not complaining. And now that this lawyer, Michael Avenatti, is making further accusations around Rosneft, which would have also incentivized Trump to lift the price of oil. The percentage of analysts and traders who are bullish on oil is at a 12-month high, David Inglis. Emerging market currencies slumped the most since November, with the Turkish lira hitting a fresh all-time low. I've warned about this several times. One of the warnings was on the 5th of February when I wrote an article about Halcyon days. And I said Wikipedia has an article on Halcyon days, and it reads thus. From Latin Halcyone, daughter of Aeolus and wife of Ceyx. When her husband died in a shipwreck, Halcyone threw herself into the sea, whereupon the gods transformed them both into Halcyon birds, kingfishers. When Halcyone made her nest on the beach, waves threatened to destroy it. Aeolus restrained his winds and kept them calm during 7 days in each year, so she could lay her eggs. These became known as the Halcyon days, when storms do not occur. Today the term is used to denote a past period that is being remembered for being happy and or successful, and I was essentially saying the markets were set to exit this Halcyon period. US 2-year yields hit a fresh 10-year high at 2.58% on the heels of a report that indicated a pickup in US consumer spending. Previous warning was in September 2016, admittedly a long time ago, but you know, when you see something which is totally out of whack, it can stay out of whack and bankrupt you, as it did me a couple of times, I must admit. If volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse, or to put it another way and to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' Hotel California. Mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the nightman. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And I said, what is clear is that we're at the fag end of this party. Yesterday we had the second biggest jump in long rates over the last year. That's from the stalwart. The 10-year has gone from 1.32% in July 2016 to 3.08% today, which is what I was talking about in both those articles. Significant resistance. I follow Peter Brandt as a great chartist, and he says there's significant resistance on the T-bond yield chart in the 3.25 to 3.30% range. So let's keep an eye out on how we behave up there. Home thoughts. Tom Wolfe, whose journalism struck a literary note, died at 88. I read many of his books, including The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, in which he said, you're either on the bus or off the bus. Good morning from Africa. This is a photograph from Herd Tracker. I like this. Borders are not the reflection of policy and politicians, she said in a TED talk delivered late last year. They are the reflection of the borders in our heads. They are the borders that keep us from pursuing our dreams. You, me, us. We are the border guards of our lives. New Scientist is talking about how a strange signal from the early universe could mean that our ideas about dark matter are all wrong. That took me back to Don DeLillo. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in. A voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. He checks in with his flight dynamics and conceptual paradigm officers at Colorado Command. We have a deviate tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference, I've gone redundant, but I'm not sure it's helping. We are clearing an outframe to locate source. Thank you, Colorado. It is probably just selective noise, your negative red on the step function quad. It was a voice, I told him. We've just received an affirm on selective noise. We will correct Tomahawk. In the meantime, advise you to stay redundant. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon, and somehow I imagine the voice to be exactly as Delino describes it on the day that finally others get in touch with us. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon, is a melange of repartee, laughter, and song, the quality of purest and sweetest sounds. In this photograph, you see Muqtada al-Sadr sitting at his home in Najaf. And he really has played the long game. At one point, they wanted to assassinate him. He's outlasted George Bush, Tony Blair, all those old regime changes, now returned again with Ambassador John Bolton. Mohammed Sadek al-Sadr, Muqtada al-Sadr's father, was murdered along with two of his sons, allegedly by Saddam Hussein. So really, he is the comeback kid, but he never went away. But I doubt he'll take the main position. I think he'll play kingmaker. Justine, North Korea says will never engage in economic trade with the US in exchange for giving up its nuclear program, KCNA. And here it is, the English language translation of North Korea's latest statement, taking aim pretty clearly at John Bolton. Rosenberg tweets, this statement is carefully targeted at Bolton, but not Trump. Norks are calculating there is space between them and testing who is in the driver's seat. Their hope appears to be that Trump will conclude Bolton is threatening his prized summit and throw him under the bus. Yep, that's the way I read it, says C.S. Dickey. Sure, come to Singapore, Trump, and bring me the head of John Bolton. Then, like the walrus told the oysters in the Lewis Carroll poem, we'll talk of many things. And Reuters is saying that they've suspended talks with the South. A report on North Korea's KCNA angrily attacked the Max Thunder air combat drills, which is said involved US stealth fighters and B-52 bombers. Any cancellation of the June 12 summit in Singapore, the first meeting between a serving US president and a North Korean leader, would deal a major blow to Trump's efforts to score the biggest diplomatic achievement of his presidency. Take you back to 30th of April, when I said so, my question remains, what security guarantees can Trump provide to Kim that will convince him to denuclearize? Offering up bulletproof security guarantees is the equivalent of threading the needle. And here we're seeing exactly that. Threading that needle is not going to be easy. Take you back to 30th of April, when there was a huge sense of optimism. A new history starts now, an age of peace from the starting point of history, Kim wrote. I was talking about the breathtaking Hollywood optics of that meeting at the truce village of Panmunjom, and then talking. Marwan, of course, was a little jaded by the optics. When pictures are the news and symbols are the facts, cliches become truths and media turns into propaganda, or BS, he said. September 2017, a different era, when he was setting off rockets, I said front and center, Kim's mind must be the image of Saddam Hussein being hung by his neck and Muammar Gaddafi meeting his death. February 2018, I was writing about how he is the buffer state between China and more than 30,000 US soldiers parked on their doorstep. I was referencing the visit of his sister to Pyongyang, to Seoul and Pyeongchang, and then quoting Lao Tzu, because that seemed to be a soft power approach where he was utilizing his sister. Water is fluid, soft and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. This is another paradox. What is soft is strong. Lao Tzu. September 2017, of course, I was quoting Thomas Pynchon as screaming comes across the sky, the Schwarzgerät with the mysterious serial number 0000, and quoting, it is a curve each of them feels. Unmistakably, it is the parabola. They must have guessed once or twice, guessed and refused to believe that everything always, collectively, had been moving toward that purified shape latent in the sky, that shape of no surprise, no second chance, no return. And then in November 2010, I wrote about how far away in distant lands lies the hermit kingdom. They've all had tiny little hands like the elves and the shoemaker. Reuters posted this photograph the week that Malaysian leader Najib's world fell apart. And why Ibrahim is set to walk free. Hervé tweeted out early in the morning, a breathtaking development of the proof again that the world is virulent by nature. We wrestle on Twitter, the battle is on Facebook, the war is on WhatsApp. India, politics, New York Times, have a read. Trump apparently has resumed using his personal cell phone for late-night calls to such confidants as Sean Hannity of Fox News, who is known in the capital as his unofficial chief of staff. New Yorker article, well worth reading. In Washington, where only 4% of residents voted for Trump, the president hews to a narrow patch of trusted terrain. He rarely ventures beyond his home, his hotel, his golf course, and his plane, taking Air Force One to Mar-a-Lago and to occasional appearances before devoted supporters. He has yet to attend a performance at the Kennedy Center or dine in a restaurant that is not on his own property. 10-year yields managed to push through to the highest since 2011, mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. I wrote over the weekend about emerging markets and the risks, and I said the signal in the noise is the yield on 10-year US Treasuries, which yield was around 3% over the weekend. It's now around 3.10. I said if we move to 350, we could see a further round of bloodletting. Japan's economy shrank for the first time in 2 years during the first quarter. Currency markets, euro dollar 118.37. We've broken down. This was my target area actually when we were above 120. You'll recall 93.26 dollar index, expecting it to go higher. Japanese yen 110.27. Really looking for 114.50 now. Swiss franc 100.03, back above parity. Pound 135.12. Aussie 0.7476. India rupee 67.815. That's in big trouble. South Korean won 1077.26. Let's keep an eye on that. Brazilian real 365.34. Egyptian pound 17.8325. And the rand is blown out again, 1257.86. So we're going to have to look at this, look at how we rebase our prices. I'm still bullish about Ramaphosa, and we'll just have to reset our levels. Dollar index 93.26. This is a 3-month chart. 88 stop. You'll recall. Spread between US and 10-year US and Japanese 10-year yields hits 3.02%, an all-time high. This is why I'm bullish dollar yen. Netflix was one of my conviction trades of the year. Have a look at the performance. It still remains so. Euro versus the dollar, 118.37 last. I'm expecting the euro to fall back a bit more. US crude oil futures settle at $71.31, up 0.49%. It's been in a bull market for quite a few weeks. We know why. Gold, the dollar continues to weigh. We've broken down through 1300. This is a chart from Rafi. Over the weekend, I said this has all the ingredients for baking a good old-fashioned crisis. I said the signal in the noise is the yield on 10-year US Treasuries, which yield is around 3%. And if we move to 3.5%, we could see a further round of bloodletting. Falling off a cliff, asked JS Blockland, during the last couple of months, emerging currencies have dropped more than 7% against the dollar. This is the US 10-year from Lee Sachs. Turkey's lira crashed to all-time lows, and then Erdogan saying he wants more control over monetary policy, it crashed further. EM route spreads to Asia, Indonesian rupiah drops to lowest since 2015 as well. Let's move on to Africa. Chinese investment in Africa could create national economies entirely dependent on China, say experts. Around $86 billion in loans were issued by China between 2000 and 2014 to finance over 3,000 infrastructure projects in Africa. One of the main issues around the Chinese approach is the dangerously high levels of debt that it brings, which could prove unsustainable for growing economies. There is also a risk that the continent becomes overly dependent on one country, which could allow it to hold an uncomfortably high level of influence. Mr. Yusuf said China is seeking to present itself as the new face of globalization, an image it will work hard to portray at this week's Belt and Road Summit. The problem with this is that the current model of their globalization doesn't so much encourage increased interaction between nations on a worldwide scale as increased interaction with China on a worldwide scale. The reality in Africa is a model of globalization that works only in China's interests. It's pretty hard. Zambia is an interesting case study. Angola is another one. And August 2017, I wrote a piece, China Rising, and I said Sri Lanka, which had gorged on Chinese debt, has had to disgorge the handbag total bought to its creditor. The new scramble for the Horn of Africa, an article by Martin Plaut. This is talking about what's happening in the Horn, and I've been, saying that I've been presenting to that effect that we've seen a spillover of the Middle East spilling down south. It can't be good. The region is strategically important to these states for various reasons. Securing shipping routes in the Bab el-Mandab Strait, proximity to the ongoing conflict in Yemen, and the desire to array forces in the region alongside rivals, including the United States. Of course, Djibouti is where we've got this extraordinary traffic jam, but people have come further south. Worth reading. My piece over the weekend also then finally ended up with Africa, and I was quoting the Economist quote, that makes Africa look more like Italy than China. Certainly caught my attention. Look who's in the market. South Africa is marketing its first Eurobond since Ramaphosa became president. It's already a record year for African sovereign sales. I'm calling it the last hurrah. South Africa's marketing dollar securities maturing 2030, 2048. Initial price talk about 6 and 6.375%, a small premium over existing yields. 12-year tranche yields 5.78 and the 30-year 6.3. South African all shares down 2.71% so far this year. It's been a volatile May for the Rand. Have a look at this. 1257.86, average 1235. Didn't get out when we could. So let's have a look at what we do here. But prefer to be long. But it's going to back up if my overall macro view plays out. Nigeria's problem, the lowest tax collection in Africa. But what's interesting about this diagram from Redcat Man is you can see the other countries and who's doing well and who isn't. Nigerian all shares up 6.24% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 32.08% this year. Vodafone's African unit seeking deals to fuel Tanzanian expansion. Interesting. This is interesting. Afrobarometer, 6 in 10 Tanzanians, 62%, say the country's headed in the right direction. A turnaround from 25% in 2014. So Magufuli is a real populist. He's popular. Haye asked, how is it that the Kenya shilling is so stable, yet the emerging market currencies are taking a hit? Do we have above normal returns on equity and treasuries compared with the rest of emerging and frontier markets, Nigeria, Turkey, the Rand, which are all on a losing streak? I said the strength of the shilling has confounded everyone for eternity, but it's actually empirical and based on a surge, in my view, of official remittances, which are 50% of what the actual number is, and those official numbers have gone up about 50%. And we're at 100.46. Stanbic have issued a tender document for the shares that they're proposing to purchase. That's on rich data. If you want to have a look at it, Stanbic, of course, reported very strong first quarter earnings. Trades on a trading P of 8165. I think it's a bit of a buy. Nairobi all shares up just 2.14%, having tumbled 11.039% since a record high on April 5. NSE 20 down 4.07%. Hope to see you at Mindspeak Saturday, Intercontinental. 9:30 a.m.